here to help you not panic, the investment pros. We've got Matt, Jim, and Hillary. The gang's all here. Constance Hunters. What do you think about the session?
Look, I think there was very little real news out there, and it was driven in part. The Dow spiked because the dollar actually took a step back, got a little weaker, and that made the multinationals, the very companies that have been complaining about the strong dollar hurting their global sales, actually catching some wind. So I agree with Matt's point. There are so many headwinds still in this market, or rather, there's so many things that we can debate. I think that's going to keep people from rushing in. We still got to sort out the Fed. Oil, we're still going to trade on back of it. Cheap gas, as Constance said, I think is good for the consumer, but is a challenge to the job market.
What do you like, Jim?
Intercontinental, largest hotelier in the world, great presence in Europe, and I think there's there is an activist investor pushing them to take advantage of the M&A activity and the tax inversion that has got very little time left on it. So I think it's got downside protection because it's trading cheap to its big companies, Hyatt, Wyndham, etc. But I think the activists could push them to do something.
I feel like
although the wild card we can throw out there is that oil can be manipulated. I mean, if Saudi Arabia decided to turn off the spigots tomorrow, we could be double the price we are right now.
But less so than it could have been 20, 25 years ago.
Thanks to the American fracking miracle. What do you think, Jim? What stocks do you like here?
On the stock side, actually, I appreciate Steve talking about transportation because I went FedEx. Clearly, gas is a major input to them, so their cost base is lowering. We have the huge spike of e-commerce. We've got a confident consumer, so I think ground transportation, I think that's still the most important business for FedEx. I know they fly planes around too. They'll benefit on that side, but ground transportation, cheap gas, I think FedEx.
I worry a little bit.
Rather actually own the land. So we've been buying it. REIT's been up 9% in the last 2 weeks. They've been doing well.
There's been a lot of competition for the types of deals these guys have been funding. So I agree, rather have a hospital or something affiliated healthcare. These guys have been actually reaching for yield, and they might have to rebalance and revalue that portfolio.
I want to get to this real quick, though, Jim. Everyone's got a point, though. We've had a huge run. How do you protect these kind of gains and have some sort of defense in there?
Right. Well, first of all, you never go broke booking a profit. So you might have seller's remorse that you miss some of the upside, but you never go broke if you actually are logging profits. But I think the question is why did you buy that stock? What was the rationale? You talked about the fundamentals, and to a certain extent, stay the course unless something material changes your thesis. Not necessarily just a spike in the stock price, but did something change in the company?
Yeah, unfortunately, man. When the stock is getting hammered, you forget all about the fundamentals, which is unfortunately the case too much. Hey, but Jim, it's easy to see why. I mean, I think some biotech is in bubble territory, and I know we've all been around for a while. We know when this group gets hit, they get hard.
Yeah, I'd rather not say biotech is not in a bubble or biotech isn't a bubble. I'd rather talk about the specific company.
Name by name.
Name by name. And actually, the company I was going to talk about was Amgen because they're big, they're making money. I also think there's going to be there's great data coming out. That's what's separating, I think, certain companies, the winners from the losers. There's better data. Investors are not just chasing things, in my opinion. I hope they're not. I think they should be looking for the companies that have bigger data, have the better data, and with a good balance sheet, they're going to be acquiring some of these little guys. They're going to be the big farmers, going to be a big beneficiary.
That's the next big move, consolidation.
really, that is the problem.
Absolutely.
You're talking about what the state of the economy. First of all, I think it depends on your vantage point. I mean, whether you have done well the last few years, maybe less.
But to go back then, it doesn't mean your vantage point before the recession. If you were rich and if you weren't rich.
And, well, actually, I thought it was really interesting. The word crisis you said appeared none. It did not appear in the notes. Well, in the national survey, 70% of Americans feel the economy, as I understand correctly, is permanently damaged. 84% of people surveyed said it's not better since the crisis. So I kind of find it interesting the Fed is not talking about the crisis, and yet so many people, so many Americans feel our economy is not improving as a result of the crisis, despite how much wealth has been created.
So this is what happened.
A huge disconnect here.
Jim, I like this one a lot.
No, I do like it, and you highlight the solid-state drive, and that is critical for their revenues, and they're outplacing their biggest competitor, I think, which is Micron, in that area, which is why I think they'll do well. I am a little concerned about how much competition across their business is going to face, and the competition is fierce. It's Intel, it's Hewlett-Packard, and I think one of the biggest players in the space is Samsung. So there is some fierce competition, but I like what you picked over what I think is their biggest rival, Micron.